Prince Harry's transition from working royal to global advocate is now complete. Climate Week in New York City was an opportunity for the Duke of Sussex to try out diplomacy from a different perspective. Ever since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle visited Nigeria at the request of the country's government, their travels and international engagements have looked more like royal tours. When Harry originally announced a solo trip to New York City to attend Climate Week events, it was easy to assume it might be reminiscent of Prince William's 2023 trip to the city for the annual Earthshot Prize Innovation Summit. But when Harry took the stage at the Clinton Global Initiative on Tuesday morning, it was clear just how far he had come as a speaker and a public figure. He paced the stage, TED Talk style, and used his personal cell phone as a visual aid. He began by discussing the space race, using it as an extended metaphor for the unforeseen effects that technology can have on our politics. Compared to the uplifting yet somewhat hesitant speeches he used to give 5 years ago, the prince was brimming with purpose when talking about big tech. Our laws and regulations are different state to state, country to country. We may have different backgrounds, viewpoints, beliefs, and even access to the internet itself. But the one thing we can universally agree on is the safety of our children, he said. So why? Why do the leaders of these insanely powerful social media companies still refuse to change? Why are we holding them to the lowest ethical standards? In any other circumstance, a business would commit all resources to fixing the bug. Unlike the trip to Nigeria or their August trip to Colombia, where Harry and Meghan spent a few days with the country's vice president and got in a few cultural experiences, the Duke's multi-day trip to Manhattan was all business. In under 72 hours, he packed in at least 7 events with a handful of his charities, some of which have counted him as a patron for more than a decade. He gave prepared remarks at most of the events, which meant he was switching gears from subjects ranging from youth empowerment to minefields and conflict to the climate impacts of travel to the ongoing HIV/AIDS crisis in southern Africa at the drop of the hat. Rather than focusing on the climate specifically, the trip was an opportunity for Harry to shine a spotlight on the teams that have helped him carry out his grand charitable plans. He was the headliner on Tuesday when the Sustainable Travel Coalition Travelers, which he founded in 2019, celebrated its 5th anniversary with a panel discussion and cocktail reception. On Monday, he celebrated the successes that the Halo Trust has had in demining Angola following the country's devastating 26-year civil war, work that began with the support of Princess Diana in the final years of her life. He spoke about his 2019 visit to the same former minefield as his mother in front of an audience that included 3 of the nonprofit's current Angolan frontline workers. Nearly every year since 1952, when the United Nations moved into its current headquarters in Manhattan's Turtle Bay neighborhood, the annual commencement of the UN's General Assembly session in September has drawn politicians, diplomats, and academics from around the world. The heft of global power descending on the city during its early weeks is unparalleled, and it regularly turns city blocks into barricaded checkpoints for motorcades and processions. Because the world's decision makers are in one place, non-governmental organizations use it as an opportunity to gather their public and private sector counterparts to network and plan for the future. What we now call Climate Week New York City began in 2009 when the nonprofit climate group started urging participants to make the environment a central point of discussion during the diplomatic free-for-all. Because of the royals' long legacy in researching and combating climate change, It's practically impossible to avoid talking about them during Climate Week, even when they're not around. In 2022, the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II delayed the arrival of many United Nations General Assembly VIPs, and her legacy of diplomacy and environmental action was mentioned by a number of speakers, including Queen Rania and U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield. On Monday, while Harry was a few blocks away at a private African Parks event with Katie Couric, his father was a topic of discussion during the first day of the Clinton Global Initiative. Guyana President Mohammed Irfan Ali gave a speech about the strides his country made protecting its biodiversity and vast rainforests, mentioning King Charles III multiple times for the help the monarch's Sustainable Markets Initiative has provided in recent efforts to calculate the economic benefits of their conservation policies. Where William and Charles have walked the line of representing British government interests while establishing themselves as global leaders in fighting climate change, Harry's role outside of the palace means he's coming as a representative of himself and his ideas. His comments this week reveal a direct point of view now, formed both by his years in the royal family, the research he's done, and the experiences he's had outside of it. In a UN event with King Letsie III and Queen Masenate Mahato Siiso of Lesotho on Tuesday, Harry explained why he is interested in talking about a range of issues in partnership with a variety of organizations across the world. Today we have gathered here in New York, a city known for its diversity and progress and whose example teaches us the importance of inclusion, he said. Diverse perspectives, experiences, and voices are crucial if we are going to forge a more equitable world. Partnerships are therefore fundamental to delivering change, whether we're addressing the changing climate and its effects on food security, advocating for children's rights, or tackling the HIV epidemic. We cannot do it alone. Now that Harry's a private citizen, his trips are no longer organized and protected by the British Embassy, which makes them more harried than they might otherwise be. To make up for it, he travels with experienced staffers who have been with him for years and plans around the guidance of a nimble security team. Last year, William was able to move around the city with ease, including by boat, and police officers blocked off a section of the Brooklyn Bridge Park so he could wade into the East River with a group of high school students. Harry, on the other hand, had an itinerary that largely kept him indoors, bouncing between events in the range of a few midtown blocks. Harry and Meghan have always been more project-driven than his Windsor family relatives, a quality which was previously met with skepticism and some disdain from the palace staff. You can say what you want about Meghan, but she works incredibly hard, an insider told Vanity Fair's Katie Nicholl in 2020, months after their royal exit. The problem is, she and Harry have a tendency to hatch big projects over dinner and expect them to be actioned within days. It's now been 4 years since they started their Archwell Foundation, and in his whirlwind trip, Harry's charity appearances made the implicit argument that he has a lot to show for his years outside of the palace. His interest in presenting the world with his body of work might be why so many of his events were retrospective. 2 public engagements on Tuesday both involved institutions associated with his late mother, Princess Diana. He talked about her work during his remarks at the Halo Trust event and focused on her even more during a panel discussion about the Diana Award with its CEO, Tessie Ojo, and 2 of its young winners, 27-year-old Christina Williams and 18-year-old Chiara Rianti Hutapiajang. Still, the event was about much more than Diana's memory, and it showcased the legacy the award has already started to build. Leaving the Sheraton's ballroom following the discussion, I overheard 2 women in smart pantsuits remarking on how much they enjoyed it. They liked listening to Harry, but they really were impressed by the poise and delivery of the two award winners who joined him on stage. It's solid proof that while Harry might be drawing spectators into the rooms, the organizations he has helped shape can actually speak for themselves.